Hello everyone, this is Alessia Peschiera, an immigration attorney in Italy. In the last 5 years, I've been assisting thousands of foreigners who wanted to come to Italy for different reasons. For example, corporate immigration, which is the immigration related to work purposes, especially for highly specialized workers, or other personal reasons such as family visas and family-related immigration processes, or otherwise investment visas, startup visas, or elective residence, which is the one designed for those who want to retire to Italy. Here at Lexidy, we have prepared already different videos explaining that, for example, in specific terms, the investor visa or the elective residence visa, if you want to check them out. I'm talking about immigration routes rather than visas, because the visa per se is just an entry document, so the travel document that will allow you to enter the country, while immigration routes actually is the full process. So many times the immigration route requires a visa, but on the other hand, the visa is not just what will take you to Italy to stably reside here. In fact, the visa is a travel document, but you will need to convert it into a residence permit, which is the permesso di soggiorno, that you will use to stay in the country and, if that is allowed from your immigration procedure, also to legally work here. So today we're going to explore the most popular routes, and we're talking specifically about the student visa, the elective residence visa, investor visa, family visa, and work-related visas. So why you might want to come to Italy? Actually, there are so many reasons that probably I'm not able to answer this question. It might be history, it might be food or art or cultural reasons, cuisine, you just want to make friends, you want to feel the vibes, positive vibes of staying in Italy, you want to see how we work, or the Italian passeggiata that is also becoming famous into the internet, or you just might want for a romantic affair. I don't know the reason, but I'm sure it's worth coming. Today we're going to talk about the most popular routes to come to Italy. So as I said earlier, the visa is not sufficient per se because it's just one step of the process, but it might not be the first step. So there might be previous requirements and previous steps you have to go through before getting the visa. This is specifically true for work-related visas and routes or immigration routes in terms of investor or study visas. But let's see each of them separately. So the first one we want to talk about today is the investor visa. The investor visa is the immigration route related to investment in Italy, but not for real estate. So it's just, or at least we're talking about companies, either private companies or the government. So it's 250,000 euros in startup, 500,000 euros into a private company, so a limited company that is settled in Italy, or 1 million in a donation into Italy, so an Italian project, or 2 millions in government bonds. In this regard, actually, my colleague Giancarlo has already talked about the topic thoroughly. So if you want to go through the whole investor visa process, you may want to check out his video. The investor visa is in any case a very good option if you have this economic possibility, because it gives you a lot of possibility in terms of both work in Italy and stay in Italy. But it has the advantage of not being limited in terms of minimum stay in Italy. So as a general rule, you want to know probably that the residence permit requires you to stay in Italy, so in our country, for at least the minimum duration of the visa. So just to give you an example, if you have a residence permit and a visa valid for 1 year, the minimum stay is 183 days, which is also the minimum duration of the stay to trigger the fiscal impacts and fiscal obligation in the country. This is a separate topic, but you might want to pay attention to fiscal obligations as well when you come to Italy. So the investor visa is advantageous also because it doesn't trigger any fiscal related purposes unless you deliberately choose to become a resident. So if you stay 183 days or more, then you will trigger fiscal obligations. But if you don't, you're not required to have a minimum stay. So you're free to stay or not, depending on your necessities and your liberty. But also it comes with working rights. That's why we say it's one of the most favorable visas to Italy and immigration routes, and it's called the Golden Visa for Italy. Other than that, as I said, there are other options. Second topic is the Elective Residence Visa. My colleague Giancarlo has also thoroughly talked about this one, but just to give you some hints, actually this is the visa designed for people who want to permanently or kind of move to Italy to retire here. Basically, there are different options, but this is very famous and popular if you want to retire here. And it's also connected with other fiscal advantageous benefits in terms of getting the 7% flat tax if you want to reside into one of the southern places in Italy. This is the Elective Residence Visa, meaning that it's designed for people who want to reside here, but who also have the possibility of a passive income for a minimum 32,000 euros per year. So this is one of the options that probably you're gonna explore if you want to permanently stay here but not gonna work, because this does not allow any work activity in Italy. And when we say not work, it means not at all. So no work remotely, no other options of working. So you just want to stay here and enjoy your country. If you want to work in Italy, there are different options of work-related immigration routes. First of all, let's consider that digital nomad visa is not really an option in Italy right now, because the Bill of Law passed in 2022 but actually has not been implemented. So without considering this option, the big distinction is self-employed visa, self-employed immigration route, freelancer, autonomous visa, whatever you want to call it, and on the other hand, subordinate work, especially the blue card route for highly specialized workers. The self-employed or freelancer visa or immigration route is not really a possibility because it has high requirements, very strict approach from the consulate, and this restrictive approach is making this opportunity more and more difficult. So let's consider the subordinate work. In particular, we're going to talk about the blue card route, which is designed for highly specialized worker who wants to come to Italy to work for at least 1 year. This is coming with different requirements, but actually there is a new implementation in the legislation that is making these more advantageous. The blue card is the immigration route designed for highly specialized workers who want to come to Italy and be subordinate workers, so to be locally hired here and already have an employer willing to hire them and sponsor their work immigration process. So let's consider the 3 minimum requirements that shall be met. The first one is to have a job contract or job offer for a minimum of 12 months that are already signed, and so you're already engaged with this employer. And the contract shall state also a minimum requirement of remuneration in terms of 24,000 euros per year, and that's the minimum. The second requirement is that the job profession to be undertaken in Italy can be framed in one of the highest 3 categories of ISTAT, which means that the specific job is going to be considered a highly specialized job also according to the Italian system. The third requirement is that the worker is able to demonstrate to be a highly specialized worker. Right now, this is where the legislation is focusing to change and open to other categories of people and workers that can be considered highly specialized. But right now, what it takes to be considered a highly specialized worker? Well, actually, we're talking about a university degree, university diploma for a legal course of a minimum duration of at least 3 years. So we're talking about a bachelor degree as a minimum level. And what it takes exactly is that the Italian consulate abroad competent for where the university issued the degree can issue a declaration of value on the university degree. Declaration of value or dichiarazione di valore, that can be a very lengthy process. And so you have to consider the timeline to obtain the declaration of value when you want to consider the full duration of the immigration process. The advantage of the blue card is indeed that once, anytime, these 3 requirements can be met, then the application can be presented. So this is why we're talking about an extra quota immigration route, because it's not subject to the Decreto Flussi or quota decree, indeed. So anytime it means that once the immigration requirements are met, then the work permit application can be processed. This is the first step of the full immigration process. So there is the work permit application to be sponsored again by the employer. Once the work permit is obtained, then the worker can present his work visa application before the Italian consulate abroad. Once the visa is obtained, the worker is allowed to come to Italy and then to finalize the work permit process and sign the so-called contratto di soggiorno or residence contract. And then this is where exactly the worker is allowed to start working to Italy. So we're talking about a different complex, but of course we at Lexidy are very skilled to support you with this immigration route. Other types of route that we're going to see today is the student visa and the family visa. These are both related, student visa and family visa. Punto. Work-related immigration routes are not the only option to work in Italy. For sure, you need working rights to work in Italy, but these also come with a family-related immigration process. This is the fourth type of immigration route that we are seeing today. And so those type of residence permits that are linked to your family member that has already rights to stay in Italy. The big distinction here is whether your family member is an EU citizen or not, so a national of an EU country or not. For those who are family members to an EU citizen, well, the process depends always on the main applicant, which is the EU citizen that shall be registered as a resident into the country. And then you will have to apply for a specific family permit that will give you the right to stay and work in Italy for a minimum of 5 years. At the renewal, actually, this will be granted for 10 years, but it's already a permanent residence. And as I said, this comes with working rights. The other immigration route is designed for family members to a non-European family member himself or herself. This means that the family process is designed for those who want to stay with their non-European family member who is already in Italy or is going to Italy. So either reunite with the family or joining the family member at the same time of entry. The process is going through a complex procedure of a family non-law stuff first that is sponsored by the family members who is already allowed to stay in Italy. Then there is a family visa asked for at the Italian consulate abroad, and then the entry together or again reuniting to the family member that is already in Italy. This immigration process comes again with working rights, but is valid only for the validity of time that is valid the main applicant's residence permit. So if you are joining, for example, a worker that is already in Italy with a 2 years residence permit and you're joining him or her, then you're going to have a residence permit that is valid for the same time. The last immigration route that we're going to see today is the student visa or study visa. This is designed for those who want to study in Italy, and it depends on which specific course you're going to enroll in. In fact, there are different types of student visas, and it might be, for example, if you want to pursue a university degree, a bachelor degree, or a master degree to continue your academic courses. Or on the other hand, it might be, for example, a brief course to learn the language, the Italian language, and so to get a certificate of Italian knowledge. While it might be different, and for each type of course or each type of student visa, there are different requirements. Not all of them are successful, and not all of them are able to qualify you for a student visa application, because depending on the institution, it might be that it is not recognized, and so it does not allow you to apply for a study visa. The first step in any case is to engage in one of the specific courses and institutions that allow you to apply for a student visa. And then, second, to apply for the study visa before the Italian consulate abroad. Again, consider that each consulate has its own discretion and approach to the study visa requirements. So it might be that if you're living, for example, in London, you will have different requirements than if you're living in New York. But each of them has to go through this previous step of getting the enrollment into the university or institution and then to apply for a study visa. The duration of the visa will be aligned with the duration of the course that you are taking, with a maximum of 2 years, which means that the visa will be granted for 1 year, but then the residence permit, if you are following a course of 2 years, will be granted for a maximum of 2 years. Each year, you have to make sure that you are still meeting the requirements, and if you still need some time to continue your studies, you might be able to renew your visa. The very important thing to consider about this type of student visa and student permit is they also might allow you to have access to working position, which means that it might be possible for you, depending on the study visa, to convert it into a residence permit for work reason. It might be during the very same course of studies, so as long as you have a valid study permit, or after, once you have been granted with a diploma or degree. The different process might be indeed different according to what we're talking about, but consider also this option if you want to have a long-term plan to stay in Italy. So today we've seen the most popular routes and immigration procedures to come to Italy. These might differ depending on your needs, and it might take an immigration lawyer, as we are, to support you and decide what is the best route depending on your needs. Of course, we will be happy to have you and to have a first meeting with you, a first initial call that is free of charge, and so we can assess your situation and decide what is the best option. Well, I'm thankful if you have seen this video, and we'll be happy to see you soon. Grazie mille.